Aloha! You are listening to Inside the Desert Oasis Room, episode number 206. This episode is sponsored by the Tiki Bar T-Shirt Club, where their monthly T-shirt designs pay tribute to a Polynesian bar or restaurant from days long past. Each design is available for a limited time and will never be produced again. For the collectors out there, be sure to check out their subscription program. For more information and to check out this month's shirt, visit tikibartshirtclub.com. This podcast is sponsored by Frogtown Brewery, an independent craft brewery and tap room located in Northeast Los Angeles. Stop in and enjoy one of their excellent beers from their ever-changing, diverse menu. For more information, go to frogtownbrewery.com and follow them on social media at Frogtown Brewery. Today we chat with Sam Schwall, founding member of the Hawaiian musical trio, the Deep Sea Divers. Hear about Sam's start in Tiki, how he formed his band, his musical influences, and tracks from their live performance at the legendary Mai Kai. As always, I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did bringing it to you. If you'd like to follow our adventures, check out our YouTube channel at youtube.com/PolynesianPop, where we chronicle events, bars, travel spots, cocktail tutorials, and more. And if you enjoy this podcast, please consider becoming a patron at our new Patreon page, where membership grants you early access to podcasts and videos, front-of-the-line privileges to new merch releases like Tiki mugs and apparel, as well as exclusive content, meetups, and screen credits. Alrighty, pour yourself a cocktail and join us inside the Desert Oasis Room. And give it up for my friend, Sam Schwall.
Desert Oasis Room.
Aloha party people, we are back for another episode of Inside the Desert Oasis Room, and we are here with our friend Sam Schwall.
How's it going, everybody?
From the Deep Sea Divers.
Yeah.
Aloha, Sam.
Aloha. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on the podcast. I'm excited to have you on the show because for our listeners out there, Sam might very well be the youngest guest we've ever had on the podcast.
Yeah, we were talking about whether that's true. Garrett could be a little bit younger than me.
I don't know how old Garrett is, and then his buddy Adam Demarath might be. I think Adam's a little bit older.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm 24, about to turn 25.
Yeah.
So one of the younger people on the Tiki scene.
You've got to be. That's actually super fascinating to me because the stuff that we like, in a lot of ways, it's the stuff that even my parents liked. So the fact that you like it, it's already weird to me that I like it. The fact that you like it, you're almost the same age as my son, by the way. My son's 22. Okay. So that's kind of weird to me, you know. How did you get into this as an interest, not just like the music that you're doing, but the Tiki stuff as well? I mean, it's all related. What came first? Was it the music or was it the interest in Tiki?
Yeah, probably, definitely just the interest in Tiki as an aesthetic. Taking trips to Disneyland and Disney World as a kid with my parents. There was something about it. It was this, I didn't really have a word for it or a definition when I was 5 or 6, but something.
But you knew it was the escapism.
Yeah, I knew that there was a cool escape in Adventureland and that it was a cool, weird thing, and there were carvings and A-frames and thatched roofs, and it was really cool to me. And then also, for my generation, I think SpongeBob is how, again, maybe people don't know how to define Tiki or they don't know a word for it, Polynesian pop or Tiki or faux tropical or whatever you want to call it. Like, right. They don't necessarily have a name to define that aesthetic or that style of music or that set of motifs. But I think for a lot of people my age, SpongeBob is how they got to know it. Because when I introduce my friends to Tiki, I make them drinks, or they hear my music, or they hear music that I'm kind of DJing. Like, they always think of SpongeBob, and that's one way that I kind of got into the Tiki thing.
I love it. I love SpongeBob. And the thing about SpongeBob is that was something that played in my household because, again, you're about the same age as my son, so it was always on the TV for us. And what's cool about SpongeBob is the authenticity towards Tiki,
seriously,
right?
It's really crazy. It really is. And also, shout out to Alan Smart. I'm going to his home bar tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah.
And I want to pick his brains to hear what he had to do with the Tiki influence in SpongeBob. He's he has the halakahiki, and I guess he's worked on it. Or he has worked on it since the first ever episode, Reef Blower,
from the beginning,
the first ever SpongeBob episode. So maybe he kind of like. I don't know. I'll ask him tomorrow. I'll report back. We'll do another episode about just SpongeBob. Get Alan.
Yeah. I love that. I wonder
how responsible he is for that.
Yeah. So we all love SpongeBob. There's a nostalgia for it now, which is kind of weird because I remember when it was brand new and it was on the TV and stuff. But now that's a couple of decades ago.
Yeah. Right. It came out in '99. I was born in '97. Yeah. So growing up in the summers.
So more than a couple of decades ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. And the influence that it's had, even just from a musical perspective, because the music they were using there, they were using a lot of lap steel.
Yeah.
Old Hawaiian lap steel.
Yeah, so the production music on the show, that's another way that I got into this stuff, got into Polynesian music and surf rock. At least the Polynesian music, most of it's taken from a really, really good production music record called Authentic Polynesia. Mm-hmm. I don't know the bands on that, but the artist is Kapono Beamer. So my thinking is that he kind of recorded different bands from the islands. There's some Tahitian stuff. There's a lot of Hawaiian stuff. And in the show, especially the early seasons, it's all the old standards. It's hula blues.
Oh, yeah, hula blues.
Blues. It's Aloha Oi.
Yeah.
All the old Hawaiian standards. And it's very, very authentic music. And it's all from this like late 80s production music record. So I love that stuff. The record, thanks to TikTok, there's now people will repost the music. Like you're saying, there's a certain nostalgia for SpongeBob now. People will play the music. So that record is a little pricey now. I think it's probably like $200 on Discogs.
Oh,
but
wow.
Yeah, so that production music album, like you said, it's very, very authentic to Tiki and to Polynesian music, and that's what played in the show.
Yeah. So when you started Deep Sea Divers, was it because you were motivated from that influence? Where did that come from?
Yeah, so we started the Deep Sea Divers, I guess, 2018. So okay. I learned I started playing guitar when I was 10, but I learned lap steel just for that band, just because I wanted to play that music that I loved. So I'd say that record was pretty influential in starting the band. We wanted to recreate that stuff for people live. Like Jack, the guitarist, and Koa, the bass and vocalist, and I would watch the show together in a nostalgic kind of way in high school, that was part of it. And then, also just a general love of Tiki. And we play a lot of that stuff from that album. It's on Spotify. Everyone can check it out. But the actual LP that has a lot of the rare stuff that I'm guessing Viacom bought is pretty hard to come by.
Yeah. So I'm curious about your perspective about lap steel, because I was having this discussion with somebody the other day. It seems like today there's less people playing lap steel than ever before. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Do you think it's
a
dying instrument?
It feels that way a little bit, because when I started playing lap steel, like especially in the Brooklyn music scene, some friends that I had or people who were playing in bands, we would play Polynesian music at like house parties in Brooklyn, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Some people would come up to me after we played and say like, "Oh, are you gonna learn pedal steel?" It's like, no, I think lap steel is cool. I don't want to haul it around, I don't want to take a lap steel on the subway. I think there's for whatever reason, like people really, really love pedal steel, and it does feel like maybe they're not so into lap steel as much.
So I know I'm probably going to get shit for this when I say that I kind of feel like it's a dying breed. I know people are going to say, well, there's country music and there's people in that scene, right? They're playing lap steel. You have people learning lap steel all the time in the islands.
Pedal steel, definitely more than
lap steel. But the thing is that are more people playing it than there are dying off from it, right? Because all the great lap steel players are mostly gone. They were all in the mid-century, and they're mostly gone. And so, are we losing more than we're gaining? Is what I'm curious.
It definitely feels that way, and certainly in terms of, I'm certainly in like Hawaii and in the islands, there are definitely plenty of bands and killer players. But it does feel like the importance of, like, I don't want to say authentic because that sounds like I'm against exotica or surf, but real Polynesian music does feel like it's fading from Tiki a little bit, and that's kind of one reason why I wanted to start the Deep Sea Divers, of having like a band that we played some surf stuff, but a band that brings Hawaiian music back into Tiki.
That's what I love about your music, because people will call Tiki music, what we're listening to today, they'll call it Tiki music. That's not really a genre, right? It's either they're playing surf music or they're playing exotica, or if we're lucky, they may play some hapa haole, right? Because I love the old hapa haole stuff with Alfred Apaka.
And I love exotica and I love surf,
exotica and surf, and I love it all. But people will call it Tiki music. That's not really a genre. Like if you were to look up Tiki, quote unquote Tiki music, you're not going to find music,
Right.
You have to look up the more specific genre that we are putting under that umbrella, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and I love that old hapa haole style music too, which we don't really even see anymore. If you go to Hawaii, they're playing newer style. Well, you'll still hear like traditional style Hawaiian music, but they're playing a newer style Hawaiian kind of music, which is I like that too, because when I'm in Hawaii, it makes me feel like I'm on vacation, right? Mm-hmm. I love the music; it's happy and it's upbeat. But you won't find hapa haole anywhere, and that to me is the real. It's authentic. Let's say that. It's very authentic to me, even though it's really music that was derived for almost kind of like what Tiki is, right? That was kind of derived for that island fantasy. You know what I mean? Because that's not what Hawaiian music is, right?
No. Yeah, it's totally different from the hapa haole thing. And we didn't play a lot of that. We played, a lot of the old standards. We played a lot of the marches too. We do Hilo March, Honolulu March.
Okay.
That's some of my favorite stuff.
Yeah. I love that. So one of the things I want our listeners to hear is a song from you guys. So tell us about this next song that we're going to hear.
Yeah, so this is Molokai Nui. I'll let it speak for itself, then maybe I can tell you a little bit about our gig at the Mai Kai and how this kind of served as a theme for the band.
Okay,
and this is the first time anyone's ever heard this. So we played at the Mai Kai, probably the best day of my life, the most important day of my life, playing at the Mai Kai in the Molokai bar. And we took some good recordings of it. I'm weird about putting it out because the recording quality is so low, but maybe there's something kind of cool and punk rock about it. So
all right,
we'll give it a listen, and you can let me know if the Deep Sea Divers should put out a live at the Mai Kai LP.
All right, awesome.
This is
all right.
Molokai Nui.
Here we go. All right, we're back. That is, talk about traditional, right? Very much what I think of when I think of old Hawaii.
Yeah, right.
What a cool song.
Yes, that's an old Hawaiian standard, and that was live in the Molokai bar, which is pretty cool.
I love it. Sure. Molokai bar at the Mai Kai for all of those that don't know, and if you don't know, shame on you.
Yeah, right. Or you got to get there when they finally announce a reopening date. Right. All the listeners will all party, right?
Right. I love it. What would you call that music? That's Hawaiian. I'd say that's Hawaiian.
Yeah,
right?
I'd call it Hawaiian music.
Hawaiian swing?
maybe kind of had a swung feel, but yeah, maybe I don't know. I don't know what the subgenre would be really, but
lap steel in the Molokai bar at the Mai Kai. Nothing's better than that. What makes you choose what you're gonna play?
We tried to keep the tune choice, I guess, a little more upbeat, so it still had that party feel that surf rock or exotica brings to a Tiki weekender like the Hukilau, but
so it's not a specific artist or anything.
Yeah, not
it's
necessarily
just
specific
something
artist,
that just maybe speaks to you that you really like.
Yeah, and something that makes people feel good when they're drinking. Instead of I think maybe a lot of people. We played a lot of the old ballads, but there's something. I think one of the reasons why surf rock has become the main genre at Hukilau and at Tiki Oasis and at different weekenders or at different parties is because it's you can kind of groove a little bit, and it's fun.
So it lifts the mood.
Yeah, that was why I wanted to play that. I don't know. And I want to get some feedback of whether the recording quality is just too bad or whether we should release like a bootleg from the Mai Kai.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, that could be an approach too, right?
Yeah.
You could approach it as a bootleg release.
Exactly.
But here's the thing. If you were going to record in the Mai Kai, like realistically, how much gear can you set up to be like a studio, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's always going to have that live feel. And back in the day, we had records where this particular artist performed at the Royal Tahitian or this particular artist performed at the Kahiki. And that's the kind of feel you're going to get. You want to feel like you're there, right? You want to have that background noise.
Glasses clanking. That's
glasses,
like jazz record.
You want to
Bill Evans at the Village Vanguard. I love hearing people clanking their glasses drinks being made.
Yeah, I always liken it to, for example, if I'm listening to this particular artist, Don Ho at the Royal Hawaiian or whatever it is, right? I always kind of liken it to almost stepping back into a time machine because you're listening to something that happened in the 60s. And how else are you going to do that unless you get into a time machine, right? But now you have this recording, and we're kind of travel back there to that time. This is what it sounded like to sit in this dining room and listen to this music, right?
Exactly.
And doing that at the Mai Kai, like, what an honor,
Yeah, really. It really, really, really special. And, it's pretty cool. We started the band, like, a few months before we wound up playing at the Mai Kai, and we practiced a lot, learned all the tunes, and I got to do what I think is probably the coolest Tiki style gig you can possibly do, and such a crazy honor.
We spoke earlier that this particular stuff that we like, this whole Tiki thing, it's something that it feels like something that my parents liked, right? It's from their kind of generation. Are your parents Tiki?
Yeah, my parents do like Tiki a lot, and they would take me. We were talking about La Mariana.
Oh, okay.
We were talking about La Mariana before we started recording in Honolulu. They took me to La Mariana, which is pretty cool. Don't they have the original? They have the tables from the Waikiki Beachcomber, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, they have stuff from the Tahitian Lanai as well. Like when things started closing down over there, it all ended up at La Mariana, and I can't remember where the piano's from. Do you know where the piano's from?
I do not.
I think it's from the Tahitian Lanai. So there are lights, there are carvings, there's all kinds of stuff from the Tahitian Lanai there in La Mariana. And it's actually going under a renovation right now through our friend Gecko, who's, based on what I've seen, really giving the place justice.
Yeah, it looks really incredible. I saw some stuff that I think is going to go along the bar. It's some panels that he carved.
Yeah.
Really, really authentic to the original style of the bar.
Yeah, super cool.
And also, I don't want to... Hope the owners aren't listening, but it would be nice to get a better cocktail program. That'd be pretty cool. It'd be pretty cool to drink an awesome tiki drink the way that you'd be able to drink in the 40s, 50s, 60s in Waikiki. Again, that'd be pretty special.
You're totally right. Well, maybe it would be good if the owners were listening, so we could kind of push them that direction, right?
Because I didn't drink. I was probably 14, but I saw. Sure. I think that even at that age, I knew that the Mai Tais maybe were a weird color or something. You know?
Yeah. Because that's what we want. Right? We want authenticity in our bars, right? And when people say like this whole Tiki Polynesian pop thing it's hey, that's fake. You can't say like this is not Tiki, that's not Tiki, and then call this authentic because that's all fake. My argument to that is there still is an authenticity to Polynesian pop.
Oh, absolutely.
Even though it's a made-believe style of Polynesia, Polynesian pop, the genre, and from the time period has its own authenticity.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't want to be, I always try to not be like a hater about the new stuff, and it's also funny coming from me at my age. I'm 25, like, oh, this isn't really tiki, but I always think about the cool. Have you seen Finn's
his diagram.
Circle of Tiki?
Yeah,
and it's like, I don't know, I can't think of anything that needs to be added to that. It's like he has all the design elements, the puffer fish, and he has it down.
I think it's a very good.
And then there are the outliers of
diagram,
of things that are loosely tiki, or he even has like Star Wars on it, or pirates, and those things maybe can be tiki, but they're certainly not core tiki.
I won't agree with you on that.
I don't think Star Wars is, but it's like. Oh, you don't think pirates? So pirates aren't tiki?
No, I think that pirates are really from the Caribbean, right? That's a whole other part of the world. So when I think of tiki, what I think of is Don the Beachcomber and Trader Vic's trying to replicate a South Seas paradise, and that's why flamingos are not considered tiki, because there aren't flamingos. You don't find flamingos in the South Seas, right, or in the South Pacific. And the pirates, they're all really they're associated with the Caribbean. So.
I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. I'm not, and I'm not. I gotta make it clear to the listeners. I'm not justifying Star Wars as tiki, but how would you justify ceramic, jade tiles, like Chinese tiles, in a tiki bar?
How do I justify that? Yeah. The way that I see it is, and I'm gonna go back.
I love ceramic tiles.
Sure.
Tiles.
When I go back to looking at the heyday of Polynesian pop, or even early Polynesian pop, I look at the influence from the people that worked at the bars and helped build the bars. So if you look at the carvers, a lot of the Filipino guys were carvers, a lot of the bartenders also Filipino guys, and then you look at the Trader Vic's guys, they were all Chinese, and then we start seeing Chinese tiles in these bars, right? So I think that a lot of the influence comes from the people that built this particular genre that we love. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I really love that diagram that he did.
Yeah,
because it is such a clearly defined thing, and if you try to go straight too far from, for me, I think like the decor of the Mai Kai is quintessentially tiki, and if you have to people don't know what tiki is, and they ask me what tiki is, and they ask me, or they think that I'm into Jimmy Buffett and Margaritaville, then I kind of explain like, hey, here's a video from the Mai Kai. Again, here's my music.
If what we're doing with tiki is trying to replicate a South Seas paradise, the Mai Kai does that very well, especially having an authentic floor show, right? When you look at Jimmy Buffett, he's not trying to replicate an authentic South Seas paradise. He's all about 2 cheeseburgers in paradise. Let's get drunk and screw. Where's my lost shaker of salt? Margaritaville. Margaritas don't come from the South Seas. They come from Mexico.
Yeah, right.
So they're not one and the same. So that's kind of how I explain it. And when I look at even tiki bars today, and I know we're getting tiki geek level right now, and
I think it's awesome.
I don't want to sound like a tiki snob or an elitist or anything like that. I'm just explaining how I justify what is and isn't, and what's authentic and what's not. If we're building our home bars to replicate what Don and Vic did, then we shouldn't have those other elements, right? Because there were no beer signs at Trader Vic's.
Yeah, right.
There were no.
I guess you could probably get a beer at Trader Vic's, but you couldn't
get
a beer.
But you wouldn't
never get a beer at Tiki Tea.
You wouldn't see a Miller Lite sign hanging from.
I don't even think you could get a beer at the Mai Kai. Correct me if I'm wrong, but.
That I don't know. You can't get a beer at Tiki Tea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, there are elements that, again, there's an authenticity to Polynesian pop. Whether people say they want to argue that, but it's all fake, but it still has its own authenticity.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah. Also, great segue into the Oceanic Arts event. That's if you need to know what Tiki is, that's another.
Yeah. So you guys are in town for Oceanic Arts.
Yeah. So going to the first. This is we're recording this on April 1st, and it's about to be.
Right.
Tomorrow is the first day of the Aloha OA parties that they're doing. So that's.
That place is. It's going to be such a bummer to lose them.
Yeah.
Because
seriously.
these guys had their hands in everything. That again, talk about authenticity, right?
You could even look at the catalogs if you're thinking about maybe even more than Sven's diagram, like the old OA catalogs. That's Tiki aesthetics in the purest form.
I love it.
Pufferfish lamps, matting,
everything.
Jade tiles. They got it all. And
they single-handedly influenced this particular genre, because a lot of these places that we we love that are now gone, they built them or had a hand in building them by either helping with designing them or supplying them with materials to build them. As a matter of fact, a lot of their tikis found their way to Polynesia because when they needed tikis in Tahiti, for example, they would dial up Oceanic Arts and have them carve a tiki and have it shipped over to Tahiti, right?
Yeah.
So, very influential guys, very talented guys. I'm happy that they're getting the recognition they deserve and they're going out in a bang, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because a lot of these guys that were very influential to what we love died penniless. You know, they died without the fame that I think
funny,
that they deserve.
They sent out an email today for people going to the event with some, drink responsibly, here's where you park. And then one of them, the first one was, don't crowd Bob and Leroy.
Yeah.
They're rock stars. Everyone's going to mob them.
Yeah.
It's cool that they're going to feel that the fame that they deserve.
Yeah, I love it.
It said something like, oh, they're only two 87-year-old legends to go around. So
right. I love it.
Don't crowd Mick Jagger at Oceanic Arts tomorrow.
Right. Yeah, there were so many that missed out on their time in the sun, right? Ray Buin is one of them, I think, from the Tiki Tea. He didn't get the fame that I think he deserved before he passed away. And some of the carvers, like, for example, Andre Bumatai, and then we live, like Barney West, he's another one,
Yeah.
So there's a few people there that I believe should have probably had a little bit more fame for their influence, but it is what it is. That was a different time where those guys went when a lot of them went during the Decade of Destruction or the decade after, and the Decade of Destruction being the 80s, the Miami Vice decade, right? When Tiki was considered tacky and passé, and everybody wanted to wear suits without socks. Yeah,
right.
So it's a different time.
Circling back to your original question. My parents took me to Oceanic Arts when I was young too.
Yeah,
and I was pretty starstruck then. It was pretty
I saw
cool.
That photo.
I saw
that photo you posted
the guys
before.
who did Disneyland, the guys who did Trader Vic's. It's pretty
you name
cool.
it.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I mean back then maybe I didn't know I couldn't drink, so I wasn't like
right.
I hadn't been to the Mai Kai. I wanted to go to Tiki Tea back then so bad. Whenever my family would go to California, from a pretty young age, I knew what Tiki Tea was. And finally got to go to Tiki
Like I
Tea.
said, you're about the same age as my son, and for as long as he's been alive, he's been wanting to go to Tiki Tea.
You got to take him. Let's go.
We got to take him. He lives in Northern California now, it's harder to do it these days. But we got to take him there and have him experience that. When he turned 21, everything was shut down for COVID.
Oh, that sucks,
he didn't get to go. So and he still hasn't gotten to go because he got a job and moved up north. So we're gonna make it happen soon, though.
Yeah, that's
Hopefully
awesome.
This summer we'll do that. So let's do another song for our listeners.
Yeah.
Tell us about the next song.
So what should I play? I'll play. You want a ballad or something with some vocals? I think we'll get a little vocals going. Get some Hawaiian vocals.
Okay.
This one is Leahi.
Leahi. All right. Here we go.
Divers. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with you.
All right, we're back. What a cool song. So another traditional Hawaiian song.
Yeah, that was Leahi with that was another thing. We were lucky enough to have bassist who knew a lot of the old Hawaiian standards, and that was he.
So who's singing on that one?
That's my friend Koa. So he played bass with us, and he would sing and play bass, and he'd sing a beautiful rendition of Akaka Falls that I'll also send you.
Very
really,
nice.
Really pretty.
Very nice.
I'm trying to think what other ones we did.
And he speaks Hawaiian then?
I don't know if he speaks it conversationally, but he knows the pronunciation perfectly, and he knows a lot of those old songs.
Because we're hearing it in Hawaiian.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, really, really, it was really, really cool getting to have little vocals, instead of just all instrumental.
Yeah. So I'm curious. So he has kind of like, would we call that a falsetto? What do we call that too when they? I'd
say that's a falsetto style singing. That's what I was telling you about. There's some awesome falsetto records. I guess that is a big part of
is he
Hawaiian
one of
music.
these guys that speaks like he doesn't speak the way that he sings, like Barry Gibb from the Bee Gees? Right?
Yeah, I'd say yeah.
He has got a deep voice, but then like when he sings, he's like ha ha ha.
Yeah, right. Yeah, singing in that falsetto.
Yeah.
I'll send you those albums. There's for a few years they were putting out, and that's another because there's not a lot written about Polynesian music, at least not that I found online. I'm sure there are books and liner notes where you can kind of piece it together.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. There's actually a few podcasts that are very good. Alan Akaka does a podcast where it's not really his podcast. He's usually a guest on this podcast, but he talks a lot about Hawaiian music and lap steel music in particular because he's a lap steel player.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So,
yeah, you got to send me that, and I'll send you it's a falsetto contest they did. I guess they still do the contest, but they released a record from the contest, I guess probably like late 90s through the mid 2000s. Okay. So there's a record every year of a lot of these cool standards recorded in a more modern, it's not like the arrangements aren't modern, but it's modern recording quality.
So you guys are choosing music that's kind of off the beaten path, right? Not the music that we're more familiar with, like Little Grass Shack and Princess Papuli and Hawaiian Hospitality. Though that's all Hapahali stuff. But you're picking things that are a little bit less known.
Yeah.
And more traditional.
Yeah. Again, I'm obviously on vinyl, and like on the islands, people know all this music, and it's alive and well. But yeah, it took some sort of like, I guess, digital crate digging on Spotify to like dig through these albums and find things.
I love that digital crate digging. Yeah.
Maybe I coined that term. I don't know. But
I don't know. I love it. That's a cool term. I know exactly what you're talking about.
That have less than 1,000 listens that should have way more than have a lot of listens. And I have a really long playlist of Tahitian and Hawaiian stuff that I link in the Deep Sea Divers bio.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's called Molokai Polynesian music. And so I think I describe it as classic and rare Polynesian music. So it's, I think, probably more Tahitian stuff. We didn't play any Tahitian music in the Deep Sea Divers, but Tahitian stuff and probably like 2/3 Tahitian, 1/3 Hawaiian. And so that's in the link in our bio. So go to @the Deep Sea Divers on Instagram, and if you want to, Adrian's playing some awesome stuff right now. I don't know if the listeners can hear the iPod Classic in the back, but Adrian has some awesome music.
I hope they can't hear it because then I'd be violating a copyright.
Oh yeah, all right. Well, let's hope you can hear it. But Adrian's playing some cool stuff, and if you want a more authentic playlist to throw on shuffle at your home bar, my gotta self promote. I guess it's not self promoting. I'm hipping people to some cool Tahitian music.
Yeah, I love it.
The playlist is called Molokai, and it's in the link in our bio on Spotify. So it's good.
I love it.
Good Tiki music. Like you said, it's hard to define.
It's hard to find. I was just going to say, it's some of my favorite music, and it's just so hard to find because a lot of it's done by artists and performers that I'm just not familiar with. So I wouldn't even know where to search. You know?
Another thing is the music at the Mai Kai was a big reason why we wanted to start the band, because I was hanging out with Jack and Koa in the Molokai bar at the Mai Kai, and they play some really, really rare stuff. And if Typhoon Tommy's listening, he's the creative director now. So Typhoon Tommy just got hired as the creative director of the Mai Kai. I was messaging him to let him know they have a bunch of old CDs with stuff that hasn't been digitized. And something cool about the Mai Kai.
It needs to be digitized.
Yeah, it needs to be digitized and saved as new owners take over the Mai Kai. I'm sure they're still going to play incredible music, but it would make sense that they'd go to a more modern sound more modern setup. But there are a bunch of CDs, and what I found in the Mai Kai is it's really all the different elements of Tiki music. I don't think they really play any exotica, but when you walk in, the Molokai bar generally, at least when I was getting to go a lot, like 2017 through 2019 or 2020 when they had to close because of COVID, Molokai bar plays really old, rare, some Hapahale stuff, and then old, rare Hawaiian stuff. None of this you can Shazam. You can't Shazam a single song that plays at the Mai Kai. Yeah. In the gift shop, it's all rare surf rock. Also, can't Shazam it. Okay. Super rare mix. And they play Cook Island stuff in the back dining rooms. Yeah. So it's really modern Polynesian music, kind of the, maybe, what's like the term that you'd use to describe, like you and Tiki Kaliki and Sven, like that resurgence, that like...
revivalist?
Maybe that like revivalist feel, like a little bit more surfy. And then like... antique Hawaiian music up in the Molokai bar.
Just going back to this music that you can't Shazam, what kills me is the thought that we have music that, especially older music, right? They were putting them on these wax tubes, and there's a lot of old Hawaiian music that way. Traditional Hawaiian music, traditional island music, including Cook Islands and Tahiti and that kind of stuff. And we lost some of that because it didn't make it to vinyl. But then we have new music that goes to vinyl, and then we lose some of the vinyl because some of that didn't go to CD. And then some of the stuff from the CD never got digitized. So, like, there's music being lost all the time. Right. And that kills me.
Yeah, me too. And this might be like a corny comparison, but like a lot of drink recipes could have easily been lost. We wouldn't have a lot of this stuff if people weren't making the effort to preserve it. So
yeah, totally.
We gotta digitize those Mai Kai CDs. I was talking to Tef and Tommy about it, and hopefully maybe we can make it like a long mix or something. That'd be pretty cool. Make make one long thing.
Well, someone has to take the time to actually do all that. It's going to be time consuming, but someone's got to do it.
I'll do it.
Right.
I love Jackson will do it.
There you go. We'll put Jackson to work.
Yeah, right.
We'll put Jackson to work.
You're asking about whether my parents were into Tiki or whether they got me into Tiki. So, the first another Tiki head hanging out in the Desert Oasis room asked me to tell the story of my first sip of alcohol, and this is a true story. And Dad, if you're listening, sorry for the dishonesty. But so I had a home bar going in my bedroom when I was in middle school and then later in high school, and I had a cool bar set. It was like a
my son did too, by the way.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Also, it's like it's kind of like Otter in Animal House. He's got his like bachelor pad in his room in the frat house. There's like some that's not Tiki, but there's something cool about it. It's like you have a bar in your bedroom. That's cool.
Yeah, like how many of your friends when you're 14 has a bar in his bedroom?
Yeah. There's something cool about it.
I get it.
And so I had a kind of a home bar set up. Had pufferfish over the bar, framed Polynesian records,
right?
A bunch of mugs, and cool lighting. I actually had one of Leroy's carvings, a more Hawaiian style carving in my room.
Nice.
It's really cool. They gave me a quick aside. They gave me a really, really cool paddle for my 15th birthday. I still have it with like a hang tag.
Love it.
No, they wrote. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I had a home bar set up, and my parents were into the Tiki thing. They not as into it as me. They didn't go around to like the old bars, but my dad was having people over, and he was, I guess, there were a bunch of people coming over, and so he made Mai Tais, and they were real Trader Vic's Mai Tais with orgeat and everything. Good rum. And so I saw a picture, and I saw some mint in a glass, and I was like, I should do it. And so my parents were gone, and I got the picture of Mai Tais, and I filled a glass with ice, poured some of the pre-made Mai Tai, put a mint sprig in it, and then turned on a record in my 13-year-old, 14-year-old home bar.
Dude, I love that.
Had my first sip of alcohol. Probably got a little buzz going.
I love that. Dude,
Escape to paradise.
It's so crazy. You're like 13, 14 years old, and you're already trying to do the Tiki thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
I'd kind of lurk on. I would lurk on Tiki Room too.
Yeah,
I'd lurk
Tiki
on the
Central.
message. Oh, Tiki, Tiki Central. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
But that I never really got to fully enjoy it because it's not even back online. So like, when I was really hardcore into it, making drinks and everything, Tiki Central was down, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's back now.
It is back.
Yeah.
All the message boards are saved, right?
Yeah. I think that most of it is there. I mean, we've lost a lot of pictures still, but it is what it is. That's just the nature of the internet. Is things don't last forever. You get the HTTP 404 all the time.
Right.
But Yeah, but it's back now, and at least like there's a lot of information there. That what's cool about Tiki Central was that it's all in one place, right?
Right.
And you can do a search and you can find what you need. With social media, people will post really informative stuff, but it goes away after a couple of days.
Yeah, yeah,
and it's hard to find, So
it's interesting though because Tiki Central was down when I really got super into it and started making cocktails. And I started the band, so I kind of got into the tiki scene through Instagram. I don't use Facebook, so it's interesting. I feel like y'all probably are a little bit less on Instagram, maybe more on Facebook. And back in the day, we're probably on Tiki Central more. But that's how I met a lot of people, and that was something that really stuck out to me. That's like a very, very cool thing. So when I started the Deep Sea Divers, like again, we just started it to play that kind of music, play some house shows,
right,
whatever, and yeah, hopefully play really cool gigs like the Mai Kai or incredible bar like that. And so, yeah, Tiki Kaliki, I guess, like noticed us. She heard the music and thought it was cool, and we had probably like 20 followers on Instagram. I don't know how she found on Instagram because again, it's hard to search.
I don't
know
how I found you guys too, but I found you guys too.
I reached out to you with a Polynesian music question.
Was that how it was?
My memory. I have a this is very, very niche, but I have this video that's of a very specific guitar lick that's an intro to a bunch of Tahitian songs, and I saw that you had been traveling around. I saw that you had been to Tahiti. I just followed your account because you post cool stuff. So yeah, I DM'd you. I was like, hey, do you know anything about this?
Okay, because I remember when I saw your page and hearing the music for the first time, I got excited because we don't see a lot of bands that play that style of music anymore. Right.
I think that was what Christy...
Even in the Tiki scene, we had a few that started up, and then they were gone.
Yeah, we got to start playing again and playing gigs now that COVID has waned.
Yeah.
And
I'd love to see more of that Hapahali sound, even the Exotica sound. These days at all the Tiki events, and this is not a bad thing because I do enjoy this too. It's mostly surf bands.
Yeah, totally.
But we don't have the Hapahali or the Exotica music that we used to have, and I miss it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was it was a really cool thing. Like, I think a lot of people felt that way when we started the Instagram account. We just started an account and would post random stuff of shows that we did. And also Jim Hayward was really cool.
Yeah.
Like before, so I met a lot of people, and it is really cool how it is a really tight knit community. And if everybody has their own things they like to do. And again, like we were talking earlier about being purists or like what's not Tiki. I think the Tiki scene is the total opposite. We started this band, and within 2 months. Like I kind of, during COVID, became friends with, or I guess that wasn't during COVID, that was before COVID, pre-COVID, before we played the Mai Kai. Kind of made all these online friends and found all these people who loved this really specific thing and liked what I was doing, and they were obviously super into it, and they were doing cool things. So yeah, that's something that's worth noting, just the kindness and the family spirit of the Tiki community that I didn't know any of these people, and then within a few months got to know some people, and then met you and Boris at the Tiki Tea, which is cool.
That's a fun story. So the Tiki Tea was opening at later hours because it was when we were coming out of COVID, and they didn't have the staff to open at normal hours at 4:00. They're opening at 9:00. What happened was one of their bartenders, one of the owners, had been injured, and since they are always so thinly staffed, it affected how they could run the bar. So they're opening at 9:00. I've been going to the Tiki Tea for decades.
It wasn't me. It wasn't.
So
I know.
I know. I've been going to the Tiki Tea for decades. So I'm one of the few. I'm one of the very few that has the insider privileges there. And Boris and I had done a few things that night. We went to an art show. We went to Genghis Khan for dinner. We went to quite a few places that night, and we thought, let's go to Tiki Tea, and he said, well, they're not open yet. It's only 8:00, and I'm like, I'm not worried about that. Let's just go, So we go, and then I said, I'll get you in. Boris doesn't have the same privileges that I do, so he really didn't want to do that, and I said, no, just come. You're with me, so it'll be cool. So we walk up to the door, and you and Jackson are up there.
Yeah, we've been waiting. Like it was a long day. You know, maybe tensions were a little high. I didn't care. So yeah, we had been waiting like an hour before the bar was going to open because I knew they were opening up later. I thought maybe people would be lined up, and that was like the main thing that we were going to do that night. So yeah, or kind of the only thing.
I think you've been waiting like an hour or something.
Yeah, we drove from Newport Beach, and so we'd been waiting like an hour. And I was standing there, and I see Adrian and Boris knock on the door, and they get let in. And Jackson thinks Boris and Adrian are cutting the line.
Right.
Hey, we've been waiting to get in the Tiki T. What are you guys doing? And I told Jackson, I was like, no, I know that dude. He's a cool guy. And I said because we knew Jim Hayward, we knew Atomic Grog, and I said he's kind of like the Jim of Tiki T. Right. Jim is to the Mai Kai as Adrian is to Tiki T. So you should know who to respect a little bit.
That's nice of you to say. But I remember Boris, I think he looked at me, he's like, yeah, we're good. And then we went in and locked the door, and then then we hung out inside until the door opened. Then you guys walked in, and then you walked up to me and you introduced yourself and stuff, and then
I said sorry. I said yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, dude. And then I felt bad because it was like, oh, I didn't mean to pull rank, but but I do it all the time because sometimes there's a long ass line out there, and I just don't want to wait. Yeah, right.
No, you have privileges, and that's why I said I was like, yeah, he's an OG. He's a fixture of Tiki T, you know.
But so for all the people there that give me hell for this, it's the only bar where I can do that. I got to wait in line everywhere else, and as far as privileges is concerned, everybody's had some kind of hookup in their life where they've gotten to the front of the line because of somebody they knew, or they got a free drink because of somebody they knew,
one time,
or whatever, right? So we've all experienced that. Maybe not at the Tiki T, but everybody's experienced that in their life. So we're all equal. We're all equal. I
had no problem with it. I thought it was awesome.
No, I got to throw that out there.
I was like, oh man, cool. Get to hang out with the Polynesian Pop, and
that's so nice.
And then Boris is a cool dude, and yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You know, it's really cool that everybody's united by this very specific, cool thing, you know.
Our friend John just had lunch with Boris before he came here. Yeah.
Just met John in the Desert Oasis room. Going to hang out at Oceanic Arts tomorrow. Yeah. Who's doing the bar, by the way?
Tomorrow, I think it's the Tonga Hut.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want this on air, if it's going to drive the prices up of whatever you want to buy, but what did you look through the listing, like you look through the auction book at all to see what you might want to bid on? Can you reveal that? I know what I'm getting, and I don't care how much it costs because I've been there for a long time.
The stuff I want is, look, I need a new car right now, and it's the stuff I want is choosing between that or the car. Let's just say that. Let's just say it's like that. You know? So
what would you get if you could get anything? Because it just came out today. So yeah, like I said,
there's quite a few pieces there that I really fell in love with over the years. They have like a really tall one that's maybe like 7 or 8 feet tall. It's right at the entrance that you'll see it when you get there tomorrow. I'd like to get one of those. It's a traditional Hawaiian coup. And there's another one that came from, I think it came from Kelbo's, which I'd like to get, which is another one that we always see there, which is up also in the front, which was next to this gorilla. And people take a lot of pictures of it. Then there's a few Papua New Guinea pieces that I'd like to get. But
cool.
They were in the rental section, and they weren't the fiberglass ones. They were real wood. So
you got to show me tomorrow.
They're going to be expensive.
I can't imagine which. I can't
I'll show you.
Which ones you're talking about.
I already know I'm not going to be able to afford what I want, so I'll show you all the ones that I wanted to get. And you know, if you want to get them, that'd be awesome.
Well, you're lucky. I can't. I live in Dallas, so that would certainly make it a little more expensive trying to get it there. You could put it on a. On a trailer, and
if you can afford to buy one of those guys, you can afford to transport it. That's right. I mean, like
the thing that I want is like, it's probably not going to go for that much, and it's kind of a weird thing, and it's a little bit smaller because I haven't really accounted for after the auction how I'll get it to Dallas, but I really, really have for a long time wanted, and it's just from their catalog, but those old table lamps.
Oh yeah.
I've been looking for one for a long time. Really cool.
Well, if you get it, dude, I'll hold it for you.
Hey, honestly, dead serious. That's have a.
I'll put it right there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and then there's a bunch of cool stuff, but I just I want to get some of those old table lamps. They're pretty hard to come by, and you see the old postcards of like the Steve Crane restaurants. There's that quintessential.
Yeah.
I was telling John, there's like that quintessential mint-colored ceramic.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about.
Table, and that's on all the tables. And
yeah.
there's something. I was hoping they'd have the one from the Tahitian. You have the ashtray.
Well, they have a case there. There's a glass case that has them all there. So
but the Tahitian one's not for sale.
I think those are going to go up for some big bucks.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm gonna try my best to.
Yeah, it's the rare stuff, because like people steal the mugs, right? Or they sold them in some of these spots. But the table lamps, nobody ever thought to steal the table lamp, Right. So
yeah, I really would like to get one of those. And then there are some other things. I like the this is kind of a weird one too. I like the standing ashtrays from the Polynesian. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Disney World. That'd be pretty cool.
There's a lot of stuff I'd like to get there too, but I do have a lot of Oceanic Art stuff already. I don't have a ton, but I have enough that if I don't get anything from the auction, I won't feel super bad because I already have some stuff, and I'll show it to you after we finish recording.
Cool.
So.
And then also, if they have any of the old cannibals, like Don had.
Yeah.
Back like same, it's the Mai Kai.
The iconic one. Yeah.
They're huge.
No, they go for a big price.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
Yeah. So, well, we're coming up on the 1 hour mark, so let's pick out one more song to leave with our listeners. Tell us about what we're going to listen to next.
We'll do a little ballad. It'll be a little sign-off music. It's called Kamakani, and I'm trying to think. Is there anything else we didn't cover? Let me think. I think we just about covered it.
I think we did.
So yeah.
That question that I said to ask Adrian.
Oh, I guess this is a good closer. Jackson said, this is kind of an icebreaker, I guess, but the question was if you could travel to any time and place in Tiki history, and I'm sure I can just say history for you because you'd probably want to go to a Tiki place, and I would too. If there's any time and place in history that you'd want to go, where would it be? Again, kind of a corny icebreaker, but I think it's interesting,
I have 3 answers to that. The first one is I'd like to be at the bar when Ray made his mistake.
That's a good
Ray's
one.
mistake. The second one is I'd like to be at the bar when Trader Vic's made his 44 Mai Tai. And the third one is I'd like to be at the bar when Don Beach opened Beachcomber Cafe on Repeal Day, December 5th, 1933.
Damn, chills, actually.
Those are the three most important dates for me.
That's a really good answer. Yeah. I guess for me, I can think of 2. You wouldn't think that I'd say the 70s, but my grandparents would go when you were talking about Dallas being kind of dried up with Tiki for a long time until pretty recently. But back in the day, they had the big 3. They had, I guess at different times because the Beachcomber opened a little bit later. But they had Trader Vic's. They had Ports a Call, which was a Steve Crane concept where it wasn't all Polynesian themed, but there were different rooms. And my grandparents told me about it, and they loved it. They loved it a lot. It's kind of a trip around the world, and then one of those rooms was a room that it looks identical to the Luau postcards.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And then they also had a Don the Beachcomber. I said Trader Vic's. They had a Trader Vic's, Ports a Call, which is Steve Crane, and then they'd opened a Don the Beachcomber in the 70s. It's one of those UFO locations. And I can't speak to the drink quality. It may have still been good in the 70s, but I don't know. But
it may have, yeah.
I would love to see Dallas Tiki, where I'm from, see where my grandparents went, and the decor of that particular Beachcomber looks so incredible. So I'd want to go there in 1974 and then go see Elvis. That's what I
love that.
Yeah.
I love Elvis too.
Go to see 70s Elvis, and then my other one, I'd want to go to the Mai Kai in the 50s when there was nothing on Federal Highway and it's totally dark, and I can imagine it pretty well because you see old photos when there's nothing on the highway. You drive for a long time, it's pitch black.
Yeah,
that was probably
that's
pretty.
Got to be surreal.
And also
considering how it is there now,
and also the fact that it was such a high class establishment. It was it felt really ritzy. Really, it still has that nice dining room feel, and there's still a somewhat observed dress code, but there's something really cool about that. There's a dress code. You get dressed up, you go to the middle of nowhere, there are torches, complete escapism.
That's total escapism, yeah. So that's the other one, that number 4 would be at the Mai Kai when they were open, or when they were opening, or
and I think
then,
I love the 70s
mentioning
stuff, when they added the or they added the Molokai as we know it, like that style where it's
well, I've been to the Trader. No, I've been to the Don the Beachcomber in Marina Del Rey when it was a UFO-shaped building. That's kind of what got me.
My mom got to go to Don the Beachcomber. My parents took me. Maybe we're getting a little over, but my parents took me to Trader Vic's. It briefly reopened in Dallas. I guess I shouldn't say reopened, but some guys bought some of the old carvings and they they
try to make a go of it.
Yeah, they had a franchise kind of location near where the original Trader Vic's was. So yeah, my parents took me there, and my mom was lucky enough to go to the UFO Beachcomber in Dallas, which is pretty special.
Yeah. So I went to the one in Marina Del Rey for my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary. They renewed their vows with a church wedding, and then they had a wedding reception, just like they were getting married all over again. The wedding reception was at Don the Beachcomber.
Oh, wow.
Del Rey. And
incredible.
It was 1986, I think. I want to say 86 because of the girl I was dating at the time. And we were the only ones in there. I remember when I had to use the restroom, I had to walk through the bar to go to where the restrooms were on the other side of the restaurant. And all the lights were out in that room because there was no one in there. But the bar itself, the lights were on at the bar, and there was one guy, maybe two guys, that were there that were making drinks for basically us if we ordered cocktails because there was no one in there. Yeah, it was a sign of the times. It was a decade of destruction, the 1980s. Nobody cared for Tiki anymore. If I knew then what I know now, I would have worn a trench coat and walked out with a bunch of shit.
When you were there, did it have that did you feel that childlike wonder that
yes.
I felt in Adventureland?
That's
and
what kickstarted.
Watching SpongeBob seeing the top of cloth,
everything.
and it's like they're those little things.
That's what kickstarted everything.
There's something that I think I'm obviously younger than you, but for people who weren't there in the 30s through 50s, there's something that you get exposed to, and there's you get a little glimmer in your eye.
I look back and I think oh my God, I missed out. There's so much that I want to experience from back then.
I guess we got to experience it now. Every chance you get, you got to do it.
We have our own stuff today too. We have pretty cool bars out there today too. So, and it's a different time. Maybe back then they were like, oh, I wonder what it would be like if we go to a bar that they could do this or they could do that. Or it looks
they're
like
imagining
this.
1880s kind of tavern.
It's a classic case of wanting what we can't have. So
one last thing. This would be another tangent, but also I'll have to add, since you did 3, I'd say Cocoa Palms in the 50s or 60s, around when Blue Hawaii was recorded.
Okay,
when Blue Hawaii was filmed. That'd be pretty cool.
So another one. Let's keep going.
All right, all right, cool.
Kahiki.
Oh yeah.
I had an opportunity to go to the farewell party, and at the time I had just bought a house and my son was just born, so I was flat broke. Man. And in retrospect, I should have just thrown it on a credit card and gone. So that's one of my regrets. And then I would have liked to see the treehouse, Don's Treehouse in International Marketplace.
Yeah, there you go. There's another one.
Yeah.
Do they have? Again, I guess we're getting a little long, but they did something with the treehouse, right? There's a
when they redid,
cool, or I don't really know. I just saw one. I saw a plaque that they did about Don, which
when they redid the International Marketplace, the only thing they didn't tear down was that big banyan tree that the treehouse was in. So that's still there, and then they built this kind of walkthrough that's supposed to be like a tribute to that. It's not the same treehouse that was there.
Well, obviously not the same, but
and it is just
there is some kind of tribute, a little history, right?
With pictures and that kind of stuff that you can read about it, and read about Don and all that. So it's cool that they did that, but nothing lasts forever. We're learning that with this Oceanic Arts event, and the International Marketplace, as nice as it was with that old Hawaiian charm, it was just falling apart, and they wanted to service the tourist, so they tore down the old and put up the new.
Right.
It is what it is. Just another sign that we have to enjoy what we have while it's here.
Yeah, absolutely.
A friend of mine who lived in Vegas said that. He said, the problem with Vegas is that things change so much that
makes sense.
You find a place that you really enjoy. It'll only be there for a couple of years before they tear it down and they put up an Eiffel Tower, or they tear that down and they put up the London Bridge, or they tear that down. And,
it's weird also because then you find yourself nostalgic for stuff that was around in the 90s, 2000s, and that was still kind of weird, and then it gets less weird, less cool,
Shoot, I'm nostalgic for Treasure Island since they changed it to TI and they took away the show out front, as tacky as it was, that was cooler than what it is now, So, yeah. Well, all right, tell us about this third song.
All right, so this is Kamakani. It's a beautiful, beautiful ballad to end. I don't want to be too heavy on SpongeBob because obviously this music is way more than just one random late 80s production music album, but that's how I learned about it. Kamakani is a very, very beautiful traditional ballad, and like I was talking about, that kind of glimmery, that weird wonder that you feel as a kid of this like dreamy tiki thing. I think this really encapsulates it. It's kind of a lullaby-esque Hawaiian song called Kamakani.
Very cool. I love it. All right, here we go. Kamakani. Well, Sam, thanks for being on the podcast. I appreciate
thank you for having me, Adrian.
Driving out to the Desert Oasis room.
Incredible. Very, very, very impressive.
I love it. I love it.
It's been super fun. Real treat.
Let's throw out all of your social media and your website and all that for all of our listeners that want to learn more about the Deep Sea Divers.
Yeah, so give us a follow at the Deep Sea Divers, just like the delicious and buttery Mai Kai cocktail. The Deep Sea Divers on Instagram. And definitely, I think, like I said earlier in the podcast, you got to give the Polynesian music playlist that I have a follow, throw it on shuffle. That's all I ask. I don't really have too much else to plug besides that. You got to listen to some authentic Tahitian music and have some delicious cocktails in your home bars.
I love it. I love it. And for our listeners out there that want to hear more, our archive is located at desertoasisroom.com. We also have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/Polynesian Pop, if you want to follow our adventures. Give us a follow, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers and aloha.
Aloha.